Chosen ones, you are no longer obligated. Not to their expectations, not to their rules, not to the version of yourself they crafted to keep you small. For too long, you have carried the weight of invisible chains, performing, conforming, contorting yourself into something digestible. But at what cost? How many times have you swallowed your truth just to keep the peace? How often have you silenced your intuition just to be accepted? That ends now. Letting go of obligations isn't just about saying no, it's about reclaiming your yes. It's about understanding that you were never meant to live for their comfort at the expense of your own. Society will hand you a script. Your family will offer expectations wrapped in love. Your own past will whisper fears disguised as duty, but you do not have to accept any of it. Obligation is not love. Compliance is not respect. Self-sacrifice is not a virtue when it costs you your soul. They taught you that being good meant being agreeable, that love meant endurance, that loyalty meant bending until you broke. But real love, real loyalty, does not ask you to shrink. It does not demand that you erase yourself for the sake of others. You were not placed on this earth to be a vessel for someone else's comfort. You are not an emotional crutch, a convenience, or a tool to hold broken things together. Release the need to please. Stop searching for permission to live in your fullness. You will never be enough for people who thrive on your self-doubt, and that is not your burden to carry. Let them call you selfish. Let them label you difficult. Let them misunderstand you. The people who truly love you will never require you to betray yourself to keep them close. You see through the charade, the hollow words, the forced laughter, the kindness that feels more like a performance than a genuine connection. You used to give people the benefit of the doubt, brushing off red flags as misunderstandings or moments of weakness. You convinced yourself that their inconsistencies were just part of being human, but deep down, something always felt off. You felt it in the tension behind their smiles, in the way their words and actions never quite aligned. And now, you trust that feeling. That unsettling instinct wasn't paranoia, it was truth trying to surface through the fog of your conditioning. There was a time when you doubted yourself, thinking you were too sensitive, too critical, too unwilling to just go with the flow. You made excuses for their contradictions, filling in the gaps with hope, believing that if you just loved them harder, if you just showed more patience, they would eventually meet you with the same sincerity. But sincerity cannot be taught. People who build relationships on control, guilt, or convenience don't suddenly transform when met with kindness. They simply adjust their methods to keep you entangled. And now you recognize the pattern, the impassive-aggressive remarks disguised as jokes, the support that disappears the moment you stop being useful, the warmth that vanishes the second you set a boundary. You see how their generosity was transactional, how their presence in your life was never about love, but about leverage. It was never about who you were. It was about what they could extract from you while keeping you oblivious to the exchange. When you wake up to this reality, the shift is irreversible. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never listening. You stop chasing validation from those who only valued you when you were compliant. The relationships that once felt essential suddenly feel empty because they were never built on anything real. And when the illusion collapses, the only thing left is clarity, sharp, undeniable, and liberating. They will call you distant. They will accuse you of being harsh, ungrateful, unrecognizable. Let them. The only thing that has changed is your ability to see clearly. You are no longer willing to entertain the game, and that makes you dangerous to those who relied on your blindness. But that is not your burden to carry. You have spent enough time doubting yourself. Now, you know better. And when you know better, you do better. Let them melt. Let the ones who cannot meet you in your truth fade into the background, dissolving like shadows at dawn. You do not have to chase them. You do not have to explain yourself. You do not have to hold them in place while they resist. A growth, the version of you that needed their approval no longer exists, and with it, their power over you disappears. Some people were never meant to stay, and that's not your burden to fix. No matter how much love you pour into them, no matter how many chances you give, some people will choose stagnation over transformation. Let them. People will cling to the old you because it benefits them. They will try to remind you of who you used to be, who they want you to be, who they expect you to remain. That version of you was built to make them comfortable, to fit inside their world. You have outgrown it. And when people refuse to rise with you, let them fall away. When they show you that your evolution makes them uncomfortable, believe them. Growth exposes what is real and what was only ever convenient. Some connections only lasted because you tolerated less than you deserved. Now that you demand more, they cannot survive. Letting go is not cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. You are no longer responsible for holding together relationships that drain you, for keeping conversations alive that leave you empty, for maintaining connections that only exist out of habit. You are allowed to choose peace over proximity. You are allowed to walk away from friendships that no longer feel safe, family members who only take, lovers who mistake your loyalty for obligation. Stop shrinking yourself to make others feel secure in their stagnation. Stop setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm. The people who truly love you will never require you to betray yourself to make them comfortable. They will try to pull you back. They will tell you that you are being selfish, ungrateful, arrogant. They will say you have changed too much, that you think you are better than them. Understand this. What they really mean is that they can no longer control you, and that terrifies them. They were comfortable with the version of you who bent over backward, who kept quiet, who prioritized their happiness at your own expense. But you are no longer that person. And the more they realize they cannot manipulate you, the louder they will protest. Let them. Their discomfort is not your emergency. Their resentment is not your responsibility. And when they finally understand they no longer have access to you, they will rewrite the story. They will paint themselves as the victim and you as the villain. They will tell others how you abandoned them, how you became heartless, how you changed for the worse. Let them talk. Let them spin their narratives while you move in silence. You do not have to waste your breath defending yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. They will believe whatever suits their version of events. That is no longer your concern. You owe it to yourself to walk forward, unburdened, unbothered, and untethered. Release the guilt. Release the fear that you're making a mistake. You are not. You are simply choosing yourself for the first time. And the people who truly belong in your life will never melt away. They will rise. With you, drop a comment. I trust what my spirit knows, if you no longer ignore the truth that was always there. You are worth all the fuss, every bit of attention, every ounce of love, every moment of effort. You deserve it all. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. No more apologizing for taking up space. You were never meant to beg for the bare minimum to prove your worth to those who refuse to see it. The version of you that accepted crumbs is gone. Now you step fully into your power, demanding, no, embodying the respect, love, and abundance that have always been yours. They told you to be humble, to not ask for too much, to be grateful for whatever you could get. But tell me, who benefits when you lower your standards? Who wins when you settle for less than you deserve? Not you. And that ends today. Your worth is not up for negotiation. You do not have to justify it, explain it, or earn it. You exist, therefore you are worthy. Period. You've spent too much time making excuses for people who refuse to value you. The friend who only calls when they need something. The partner who treats you like an option. The job that drains your soul but convinces you that you should be grateful to have it. No more. The moment you recognize your worth, everything shifts. You stop chasing, you stop overextending, you stop explaining. And suddenly the people who thrived on your insecurity don't know what to do with you anymore. This is not arrogance. This is not entitlement. This is self-respect. And those who mistake your confidence for conceit were only comfortable when you doubted yourself. Let them think what they want. Let them call you difficult. Let them fall away if they must. You do not exist to make yourself small for the comfort of others. You are worthy simply because you are. When you accept less, you teach the world that is all you believe you deserve. And the world listens. It gives you what you tolerate. But the moment you say, enough, when you stop settling for one-sided love, empty friendships and soul-crushing jobs, the universe rearranges itself to meet you at your new standard. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for what should have been yours all along. Your worth is not conditional. It does not decrease when someone fails to see it. It is not measured by how much you do for others, how agreeable you are, or how much space you leave for everyone except yourself. It simply is. And the moment you own that, your entire world will change. It won't be easy. There will be resistance. There will be people who try to pull you back into the version of yourself that they found convenient. But that's not your problem. You are done negotiating your value. You are done explaining why you deserve more. From now on, anyone who wants to be in your life will have to meet you at the level you stand. And if they can't, let them go. Drop a comment. I am worth every ounce of love, respect, and abundance if you refuse to settle for anything less. And now, let us take a brief moment to honor the chosen among us. Here's to the ones who see the world differently. The silent guardians, the watchful souls, always awake, always vigilant. They don't fit the mold, and they wouldn't have it any other way. While others walk familiar paths, they forge their own, fighting unseen battles, illuminating the shadows. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you feel it deep within, you'll know this is meant for you. No masks, no pretense. Just truth. The Obsidian Inner Order is here, a place where kindred spirits gather to share wisdom, to connect, to transform. Over 450 strong, united not by conformity, but by purpose. If you're ready, you know where to find us. The link is in the description. If not, that's perfectly fine, because we're always here watching over, making a difference in ways unseen. Here's to those who walk their own path, not for recognition, but because it's who they are. Here's to you. Thank you. You have given away too much of yourself, pieces of your soul, scattered across moments of obligation, handed to people who never truly saw you, drained by situations that took more than they ever gave. You poured endlessly into relationships that left you empty, held space for people who never considered holding space for you, and silenced your own needs just to maintain peace that was never yours to keep. But now you call it all back. Every ounce of love you poured into people who left, every bit of energy you wasted on proving your worth, every fragment of yourself you abandoned just to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You are no longer a vessel for everyone else's needs. It is time to heal. For years, you were taught that self-sacrifice was love, that enduring pain without complaint made you strong, that bending until you broke was just part of the cost of being a good person, and so you carried the weight of expectations that were never yours to bear, exhausted yourself trying to meet impossible standards, and convinced yourself that your feelings were secondary, unworthy of attention. But what did that ever bring you except exhaustion? When did suffering in silence ever fill your cup? When did prioritizing everyone else ever leave you feeling whole? Healing begins the moment you realize you are not obligated to carry what was never yours to hold. The pain, the guilt, the fear, it does not belong to you anymore. But healing is not just about release. it is also about reclamation. It is about retrieving the parts of yourself that were lost along the way, about learning to nourish yourself the way you once nourished others. You have spent so long giving, tending, holding, fixing, but who was there to do the same for you? Who reminded you that your needs mattered too? It is time to become that person for yourself, to care for yourself with the same depth and tenderness you once reserved for others. To stop treating your rest as a reward and start seeing it as a necessity. To stop seeing self-care as indulgence and start recognizing it as survival. And survival requires boundaries. It requires knowing when to step back, when to say no, when to remove yourself from situations that drain you without apology. You do not have to be accessible to everyone. You do not have to explain why you are unavailable. You do not have to give more than you have just to prove your worth. You have already given enough. And if they cannot understand that, then they never truly valued you to begin with. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the world taught you that you were not enough. It is about reclaiming the power that was always yours, about honoring yourself the way you were never taught to. It is not an easy path, but it is the only one that leads to freedom. And for the first time in your life, you are choosing yourself, not because you have to, but because you finally understand that you deserve to. You are ready to rule, not to ask, not to wait for permission, not to twist yourself into something digestible just to make others feel at ease. That version of you, the one who tiptoed around expectations, who dimmed their light to avoid unsettling fragile egos, is gone. You no longer live in the in-between, straddling who you are and who they want you to be. You have stepped fully into yourself, and there is no turning back. They will say you've changed, and they're right. But what they really mean is that you are no longer convenient for them. You are no longer small enough to fit inside the version of you they created, no longer willing to be the supporting character in their story. Your evolution unsettles them because it reveals the cracks in their own foundation. When you break free, you remind them of their own cages, and instead of facing their own limitations, they will try to drag you back into the past. They will remind you of the things you used to accept, the ways you used to behave, the silence you used to offer in place of confrontation. They will try to lure you back with nostalgia, painting the past as something beautiful, something safe. But look closer. Was it really safety or was it submission? Was it really love or was it tolerance? The people who truly loved you never needed you to shrink to keep them close. This is where many people falter, at the crossroads between authenticity and acceptance. The fear of being disliked, of being judged, of being called difficult, has kept you tethered to relationships and environments that no longer serve you. But tell me, what has playing small ever brought you? Who has truly benefited from your silence? And most importantly, what do you lose every time you trade your truth for someone else's comfort? You no longer belong to them. You no longer owe them a version of yourself that keeps them from facing their own shadows. The discomfort they feel when confronted with your growth is not your responsibility. You will be misunderstood. You will be resented. You will lose people who once felt like home. Let it happen, because the people who are meant for you will find you not in your compromise, but in your clarity. And those are the ones who will walk with you into this next chapter, not as anchors, but as allies. You are no longer obligated. You owe nothing to the expectations that kept you small, to the relationships that drained you, to the version of yourself that only existed to please others. Let them melt. Let the ones who cannot meet you at your level disappear into the background. You are worth all the fuss. You deserve to be seen, valued, and loved without condition. And most of all, you see through the charade. No more illusions, no more pretending, no more playing a role in someone else's script. Now it's your turn. Take a moment. Breathe. Ask yourself, What is one obligation you're ready to release? Is it the pressure to meet someone else's expectations? The guilt that keeps you tied to people who no longer align with your growth? The fear of being judged for choosing yourself? Say it out loud. Write it down. Let it leave your body. Drop it in the comments. Share your truth. There is power in claiming your freedom, in speaking the words that once felt impossible. This is your space to be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed in your transformation. And as you do this, remember, releasing is not just about letting go. It's about making room for peace, for joy, for relationships that nourish instead of drain. You are not just walking away from something. You are walking towards something greater. Engage with others, support each other. This is a space for healing, for empowerment, for reclaiming your energy. You are not alone in this.